broadly, I don't think the aviation industry is that unique. It's like quite a number of the other industries which tend to be very global in nature. They tend to be dominated by very big established players. For example, in the US, you've got American, Delta, United. In Europe here, you've got Lufthansa, Air France, KLM, IAG. Of course, in Asia, we've got the likes of Emirates, Cathay, Singapore, Qantas, very big giants. And the thing about size is that it also comes with it a lot of the scale comes with complexity in terms of multiple layers, a lot of multiple business elements. For example, you've got the core airline business, you've got ground handling, you've got maintenance, you've got cargo, so many different parts of the business, extremely complex. And with that also comes a lot of inertia to change. Typically, when you're already established and entrenched, there's, at the end of the day, with everything that's going around the world, there's a lot of hesitancy to fundamentally reshaping the business and the organization because there are entrenched mindsets and cultures and values. And fundamentally, that's what we exploit, because while we don't have the same size and the same scale, the only thing we have going for us is speed and nimbleness. So a little bit of background first in terms of AirAsia X. So I'm not an airline guy, although apparently, now that I'm in my 6th year running this airline, I'm double the average tenure of a CEO, so that was very interesting to find out. But I came from television, so we make it up, we wing it as we go along. I was told about the vision of creating AirAsia X. Interestingly, AirAsia is one of the biggest low-cost carriers in the Asia-Pacific region. And it's actually a group of different airlines under the same AirAsia brand. And AirAsia X, interestingly enough, was an idea to take that LCC model and fly long haul using big wide-body planes. And at that time, even the board members and the shareholders of AirAsia Berhad didn't believe that long-haul LCCs could work, right? So the global experts in aviation said, impossible. The LCC model works because you only use small, short-haul planes, you fly short routes, and you come back to the same base. Not only that, of course, the big established LCC giants, Southwest in the US, here in Europe, you've got the Ryanairs and EasyJets, and said, look, we don't do long haul, right? We know what works, and it is using these small planes flying short distances. On top of that, those who've tried long haul, from Sir Freddie Laker in the UK in the 1970s, People Express in the US in the 1980s, and even more recently in Asia, Oasis, Hong Kong, may not have heard of them. They tried, and everyone that's tried to do this before failed. So everybody thought we were mad to try a business model that has basically never worked. Everybody says all these reasons why it doesn't work. We were mad, of course. Aviation, as you know, I think it was Warren Buffett who provided some advice for those of you who want to be millionaires. Who wants to be millionaires? He said, if you want to be a millionaire, very easy. Start with $1 billion and then start an airline. So, it's an industry that's well known to be a long-term value destroyer. But I loved it, and I guess I didn't know any better when Tony Fernandez, the founder of AirAsia, said, there's got to be a way of doing this, because if we could somehow make it work, it would fundamentally change the world of aviation. And the easy part of the equation, of course, is offering low fares. Anybody can do that. The hard part, which apparently a lot of airlines around the world haven't figured out, is you actually need to have your costs lower than the low fares that you're charging. It's a very complex mathematical equation. So, not knowing any better, we basically figured out through a lot of trial and error how you could actually generate a fundamentally, radically lower unit cost, much lower than the big established players that are flying long haul. Most people ask me this question, so how is it that you're able to achieve such a massive unit cost difference? And it has to do with basically creating a model that is incredibly focused, laser focused on serving a very, very distinct customer segment. And that customer segment are people who are obviously more price sensitive compared to the big insight is all these legacy carriers. Because when you fly long haul, today, before us, only these big global giants are flying long haul. And what we realize, and this is the key insight, is that every one of these airlines, for many, many decades, they've built their entire business, in fact, their entire global industry structure to serve premium passengers. I wasn't around, but decades ago, apparently, for flying long-haul international was a very glamorous experience. You put on your suit and tie, you get on, and you get white linen, fine china. It's a very hoity-toity affair. And they've created a model whereby they prioritize the premium passengers, I guess, this demographic here, first class and business class, who basically account for a substantial percentage of the revenues. Now, here's the key insight, is that for these, let's call them time-sensitive, price-insensitive customer segment, the convenience of time overrules everything. What happens is that you notice when you fly long haul, typically flights leave late at night, right? Certainly from Asia, you leave late at night, arrive here in Copenhagen early in the morning, or you arrive in Sydney first thing in the morning, because then the important businessmen can go off and go straight to work. The plane doesn't fly back immediately because important businessmen don't want to wake up at 3 a.m. to catch a 7 a.m. flight. So the plane is left here on the ground, paying very expensive parking charges because monopolistic airports love to charge very high parking charges. And it flies several hours later, right? The other reason is when you fly long haul, you've got to fly with a big machine with a big fuel tank. And to traverse that distance, you've got to put in a lot more seats to make the economics work. And you can't fill up a big wide-body plane with just people going from point A to point B. So these airlines created a whole hub-and-spoke model to create feeder traffic to fill up these big long-haul planes before they fly. And so what happens is that they time their flights to suit to make it very convenient connecting transfers. And a good example is, for example, we fly late at night to Sydney in Australia from Kuala Lumpur. Malaysia Airlines flies to Sydney. We both leave late at night. We both arrive in Sydney early in the morning. We've perfected the art of within about an hour, 70 minutes, 300 plus people off, restock, refuel, 300 plus people on, and we fly back. That Malaysia Airlines flight stays there for 6 hours and 5 minutes before it flies back. So it gets in early in the morning, but leaves in the afternoon because it wants to arrive back in KL at about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the evening with a nice 1.5 hour transit time for the Australians to catch the flights to London and Paris. So basically the planes are waiting for the passengers. Right? In a nutshell, if you were to Google Cathay Pacific's annual report, for example, you'll find average aircraft utilization rate of 12 hours. Right? So on average, only 50% of the time, the plane is productive. Can you imagine any other capital-intensive industry, whether it's your manufacturing plants, your warehouses, that you invest a lot of capital and you're only extracting 50% utilization rate? If you were in the power plant business, you'd be bust. But the airline business is run, the long-haul international business is being run at about a 12 to 13-hour utilization. Whereas we run the world's highest aircraft utilization rate at about 17 hours. Because all we've done is we've eliminated the idle time. We do all the same maintenance checks because that's regulated. We're probably a more regulated industry than the car industry. But we basically fly and not leave the plane idle. We make the passengers choose the time to fly based on maximizing the utilization rate, right? So, because our passengers are price sensitive. To them, whether you leave at 8 a.m. or 3 p.m. or 11 p.m., it doesn't matter. They buy our tickets because it's the affordable. You know, if they can save $200, 200 euros, for example, for a family of 4, that's the entire shopping budget in Asia. So they're not going to matter what time they arrive and depart.